was one of those dead, quiet Plano nights. Not even a breeze. You could hear sprinklers clicking 3 houses down. I just finished a brutal ER shift. Half watching TV, half scrolling my phone, trying to let my head empty out. Then came the knock. 3 quick taps. 3:04 a.m. My first thought was that it was just a mistake. Maybe some neighbor who got locked out at most. But when I looked through the peephole, I saw a girl barefoot, maybe 16. Her hair was tangled, her arms crossed tight. She looked like someone who'd run through something. "My phone died," she said. "Can I call my mom?" I didn't know what to do. The nurse in me saw glassy eyes, shallow breaths, bare feet on concrete. The human in me saw a scared kid. I cracked the door. "You can call from inside." She stepped in small and quiet, like she was afraid to touch anything. I gave her my phone. Her fingers shook as she typed the number. It rang. No answer. She tried again. Same. Then she just stopped. Her eyes drifted to the front window. The blinds were barely cracked. Outside, I heard gravel crunch, footsteps, someone walking on the side path, and then a man's voice, calm as if he'd been out for a walk. He said her name, not shouted, said. The phone slipped from her hand and hit the rug. Without a sound, she sprinted through the kitchen, pushed the back door open, and vanished into the dark. The man didn't chase her. He walked straight toward my house, locked the door, grabbed the phone, and called 911. My voice went automatic, the same tone I use in trauma bays. "There's a man outside my home," I told the dispatcher. A young girl came to my door. She ran. "He's here now." Through the blinds, I saw him climb the steps. Average build, jeans, jacket. He stopped under the porch light and just stood there looking up at it like he was studying the wattage. The dispatcher asked questions. Was he armed? Did I know him? I couldn't answer any of it. I just whispered, "He's right there." He stayed that way for what felt like minutes. Perfectly still, face tilted toward the light. Then, softly, he said the girl's name again. "You know better." That was when I knew this wasn't random. When the sirens finally broke the silence, he didn't run. He stepped off the porch and melted into the shadows between houses. By the time police arrived, he was gone. They swept the yard, asked for a description. One of them said it could have been a test, someone checking which houses would open. Another said domestic. Neither theory made me feel better. They promised extra patrols, handed me a card, and drove off. The neighborhood went quiet again as if nothing had happened. I didn't sleep the rest of the night, just sat by the window, wrapped in a blanket, waiting for the sky to lighten. The sprinklers started again around 5. The next morning, I checked the backyard. Faint prints near the hose. Could have been mine. Could have been his. Could have been hers. I didn't touch them. I ordered cameras and motion lights before my next shift. When they arrived, I felt better for a while. Each night, I'd get a few false alerts. A moth, a stray cat, until one notification came at 2:00 a.m. I opened the feed. Someone stood at the far edge of the yard, right outside the light, just a silhouette, hands in pockets, packing slow. They never came closer, just lingered. I called the police again. They sent a car by, but by then the figure was gone. A few nights later, another alert. Same figure, same distance from the light. Now I don't even have to check. I can feel when the camera pings before it does. I've started sleeping with shoes by the bed and a flashlight in my hand. People think the worst part was the man. It wasn't. It was the girl. The way she looked past me like she was already bracing for what came next. The way she ran before I even realized she was in danger. Sometimes I wonder if she was real. No one ever reported a missing girl that matched my description. The police said it might have been an act, a lure. But the way her hands trembled, the way she flinched when he said her name, I can't make myself believe that. It's been months. The cameras still ping sometimes. The motion lights catch nothing but dust. But once around 3, I caught myself standing in the hallway with my phone in hand, staring at the front door like I was waiting for her to knock again. And that's when I realized the fear doesn't live outside the house anymore. It's in the silence afterward, in the waiting, in wondering what would have happened if I hadn't opened the door. Because when I replay that night in my head, it's never the man's voice I hear. It's hers, small, scared, asking to use the phone. And somewhere in that memory, right before she bolts, I swear I hear her whisper, "He's not my dad." I've always been the kind of person who locks everything. Car, shed, even the side gate. It's not paranoia. It's parenting for a single dad. You build routines so you can sleep at night. That Sunday in Mesa started like any other. Ramai and I had just finished our grocery run. Milk, cereal, her favorite clementine, and the heat was brutal. We hauled everything to the porch, and I reached for the knob. Locked, keys, no idea. We couldn't find them anywhere. The back door was locked, too, and the garage keypad was dead. Within minutes, the Arizona sun had us wilting. I searched Locksmith near me, picked the first ad that said 24/7 local, fast response, and hit call. "Where you at, boss?" the man said. He was there in 10 minutes. Unmarked white van, gray polo, no logo, friendly, too friendly. He handed Ramai a water bottle and joked about softball season like we'd been neighbors for years. He looked at the door. Easy fix. No tools for picking, no finesse, just a drill. Less than a minute later, the lock gave and he swapped it with a new cylinder from a little organizer tray. "Better than the old one," he said. "High security." "How much?" He showed a chart with complexity fees. It came out higher than expected, but the heat and Ray's flushed face killed my will to argue. I signed his phone, got 2 shiny new keys, and we were back in the house before the ice melted in the trunk. By dinner, the whole thing was just another errand checked off the list. 3 weeks later, we came home from softball practice. It was dusk, purple sky, sprinklers going. I punched the garage code, still dead. When we reached the porch, the door was open, not wide, just a few inches, enough to make every instinct in me tighten. I told Ramai to stay in the car. The house looked untouched. Couch, TV, dining table, all in place. I walked room to room, slow, listening for anything out of place. Ramai's room was fine. My room looked fine. But the game console was gone. My laptop too. And in the hallway where 3 family photos used to hang, one frame was missing. The one of me and Ramai at the park. That was the moment the calm snapped. I went back outside and called the police. 2 officers came, one checking the door, the other talking to us under the porch light. The woman took prints, That wouldn't matter. The man asked questions. Who else had keys? Any signs of forced entry? Any recent repairs? Yeah, I said. Locksmith came a few weeks back. He crouched near the door frame, pried the face plate off, and hummed. These cylinders are cheap imports, easy to rekey or duplicate. Installer could have kept a copy. The words hit harder than I expected. I remembered that cheerful tone, the too easy drill, the price that felt just a little off. They bagged the drilled cylinder I tossed in the trash. One officer handed me a card and said they'd file it under possible contractor fraud. The other told me not to expect much. These locksmith scams pop up and vanish. When they left, I called the number again, straight to voicemail. The website was gone, replaced by a blank page full of Latin filler text. All those glowing 5-star reviews gone, too. That night, I didn't sleep. I just kept thinking about how easily I'd handed a stranger access to my home. I replaced everything. Real hardware this time from a physical store. Reinforced deadbolt, door bar, latch up high. I added cameras and told Ramai they were for fun security experiments. The truth was simpler. I needed proof that we were still alone in our own house. But the damage was done. Every click of the deadbolt now sounded different. Louder, thinner, like the house was reminding me it had been breached once and could be again. A week later, a detective called. They'd found 3 similar reports in nearby neighborhoods. Same website, same fake local ad, same van description. No arrests. Probably out of state, he said. They'll disappear for a while, pop back up under a new name. I thanked him and hung up. It wasn't comforting. That weekend, my neighbor texted a doorbell cam photo. A white van idling a few houses down. Could have been anyone, could have been him. She asked if I recognized it. I typed maybe, then deleted it. I didn't want to know for sure. It's been months. We replaced the missing electronics, though I never reprinted that photo. The empty space on the wall stays there like a scar. Ramai doesn't remember much. Just the police lights and me telling her it was all fine. But sometimes she asks if we can leave a light on when we go out. So, it looks like we're home. I tell her that's smart thinking, even though it twists something in me every time. A lock's click used to mean safety. Now, it's a reminder. Someone once drilled through that exact noise and walked in smiling. The house feels normal again most days, until I'm unlocking the door after work and hear that small shift of air, that subtle creak from the hinge. And for half a second, I expect it to swing open from the other side. And even when it doesn't, the thought lingers. Maybe it already did once, and I just wasn't home to see who came in. I walk dogs for a living. Most days are simple, leashes and sunburn. My favorite client is a golden retriever named Maple. She greets every human like they're her long-lost family and carries joy like it's her job. That afternoon, I had one earbud in, music low. Maple trotted beside me, tail wagging like she had her own beat going. We were halfway through her route when a man waved from across the street. He held an empty leash, clean, new, bright blue. "Hey," he called. "You seen a black lab, name's Buddy," slipped his collar. He jogged over, not even winded, as you might expect from someone who had just lost their dog. Ball cap, windbreaker, friendly face. He loves the park, he said, nodding south. I had another client after Maple, but helping people find their pets came with the job. Sure, I said. Well, look. We looped the block. He didn't shout or whistle, just kept talking to me. My wife's printing flyers, he said. He's fast. Every time I turned back toward Maple's house, he redirected us. Let's check over here. Maybe the park. After 15 minutes, the houses thinned out. Empty lots, half-built homes, a single backhoe behind orange fencing. Buddy, he called again, but it didn't sound like hope, more like acting. I looked at the leash again. No fraying, no fur. What's his collar look like? I asked. Blue, he said, lifting the leash. Matches. Where do you live? I can text if we spot him. Over on Alder, he said too fast. We'd already passed Alder 10 minutes ago. He gestured toward a gravel lane curving behind the new houses. Let's check the creek. That's when something in my gut went alert. There were no flyers, no car, no sign of panic, just him. Maple's due back soon, I said. He smiled. One more street. It didn't sound like a request. Every cell in my body said go, but women are taught to stay polite, to not make scenes. I forced a smile and said, I'll circle back that way later. He stepped closer, lowering his voice. Won't take long. Maple barked, sharp, sudden. That broke the spell. I turned and ran. Not a sprint for fitness, pure flight. Maple kept up, confused but thrilled. My bag thudded against my leg until the strap snapped, and I left it. Behind us, I couldn't hear if he followed or not. I didn't look back. When I reached the first row of finished houses, I pounded on the nearest door. A woman answered with the chain still on. I must have sounded insane. Dog, man, leash, construction lots, please. She let me in without questions. I called 911 from her kitchen while Maple drank from a cereal bowl. The officer searched. No black lab, no man in a windbreaker. They told me I'd done the right thing. I nodded, but my hands wouldn't stop shaking. I returned Maple late. Her owners were kind, though the story wiped the smiles off their faces. 2 days later, my phone buzzed with an alert. Missing woman, last seen walking near Riverbend Park. The suspect's sketch looked almost identical to the man I'd met. Same eyes, same cap. I stared until the image blurred. I called the police again, gave every detail. They thanked me. Their tone said they'd already added my description to the same folder. I followed the news for weeks. They never found her. Now, I still walk dogs, but my roots have rules. No side streets, no earbuds, no shortcuts behind unfinished houses. I carry pepper spray and an alarm that shrieks louder than I can. I've thought a lot about that moment, the split second between helping and running. If I'd stayed a little longer, would I be missing too? Or if I'd argued, made noise, maybe that other woman would still be alive. Survivor's guilt doesn't fade. It just rearranges itself until it fits your day. Sometimes I imagine there really was a buddy, some dog still out there waiting for a call that never came. Then I see that spotless leash again, dangling from the man's hand. And I know better. He never had a dog. He was hunting for someone who did. Maple still doesn't understand why I flinch when people wave from across the street. She just wags harder, trusting everyone. When we pass that corner now, keep my head high and my pace firm. Maple looks up, waiting for the cue that says everything's okay. I tell her she's a good girl over and over until it sounds true. They never found Buddy if he ever existed, but they never found her either. And that's what keeps me walking fast, never looking back down that gravel road. When the first package showed up on my porch, I didn't think much of it. Amazon box, standard label, except the name wasn't mine. Robert Greer, it said. Same address, though. Exact house number and street. I figured it was a simple mix-up. Happens all the time in suburban neighborhoods like mine. The kind of place where every cul-de-sac looks cloned. Beige paint, identical lawns. I set the box by the mailbox, assuming someone would come claim it. The next day, there were 2 more different names, same address. I called the courier service. They blamed a clerical error, said they'd flagged the route. Nothing to worry about. Their tone made it sound like I was worrying too much. But by the end of the week, the boxes multiplied. All addressed to strangers, different handwriting, return addresses from different states. My name wasn't on any of them, but my porch looked like a warehouse. I stacked them in the foyer, out of sight, but not out of mind. The next morning, one arrived half open. I told myself not to look inside. Curiosity is a bad accountant. It always comes with hidden costs, but I looked anyway. Inside were envelopes. Dozens of them. Credit cards. Each one shiny, brand new, all with different names, and all recently activated. I remember just standing there staring, waiting for logic to catch up. Fraud, identity theft. Maybe I was part of a scam without realizing it. I checked the shipping label again. My address perfectly printed. I opened the front door to see if anyone was outside. A delivery truck drove past, but no one was watching me. Not that I could tell. That night, I kept checking my phone for updates from the courier, but all I got were automated replies. A few days later, I came home from work to see 2 unmarked cars parked on the street. 2 men in plain clothes stood in my yard holding badges. "Mr. Rains?" one asked. "Yes, detectives. Mind if we come in?" My first thought was that someone had accused me of something. My second thought was that maybe they were here about the packages. Both were right. They asked if I'd received unusual deliveries. I showed them the pile in the foyer, the credit cards, the labels I'd kept. They exchanged that look. The kind cops give each other when the story doesn't fit, but the person might. "Did you open any others?" one asked. "Just the unsealed one. Did you use any of the cards?" "No," I said, probably too fast. They jotted notes, photographed the pile, then pulled me aside. "Someone's running a forwarding scam," one explained. "They reroute legitimate mail to clean addresses like yours. Drop points. Safer for them than PO boxes. You were probably chosen at random." Chosen, I repeated, as in someone submitted forwarding requests for people in the area, all sending their mail here. "So, I'm the middleman unwillingly," he said. "But yes, they left with a few boxes and told me not to touch the rest. We'll be in contact," they said. Then they drove off, leaving tire marks and silence. I spent the next hour standing at my window, expecting someone to return for the missing shipments. The house felt different now, heavier somehow. That night, I dreamed of footsteps on the porch. When I woke up, there was a new package waiting. This one had my name on it, no return address. Perfect label. I didn't open it. I put it in the garage and shut the door like sealing a vault. Days passed. No updates from the detectives. I tried to move on, go to work, file taxes, live like the house was still mine. But every time I heard a truck down the street, I checked the window. The sight of brown cardboard made my stomach twist. When the doorbell rang again a week later, I didn't answer. The sound of it echoed too long. I checked the camera feed instead. A delivery guy in a blue uniform holding another box. My name again. He smiled at the camera like he knew me. When I didn't open the door, he just set the box down and walked away. That's when I called the detectives again. No answer. Straight to voicemail. The next morning, the box was gone. That's when things started breaking in small ways. Mail kept arriving late or not at all. And once when I went to check my mailbox, the key didn't fit. It turned too loosely like the cylinder had been replaced. I called the post office. They said my forwarding request was active, forwarding my mail somewhere else. They couldn't tell me where without a warrant. I don't remember what I said after that, only that the clerk on the other end went very quiet. The next night, I heard a soft thud outside. I opened the door to find another box. Smaller this time, plain cardboard, no label at all, just my name printed dead center, neat, bold, and perfectly spelled. I stood there with the porch light buzzing overhead, trying to convince myself this was a mistake. But the air felt wrong. I didn't bring it inside. I left it there overnight. In the morning, it was gone too. No footprints on the walkway, no sign of anyone having been there, just a soft drag mark where the box had sat. I started keeping the blinds shut after that. The front camera stayed on 24/7. Sometimes it picked up small movements, shadows packing along the edge of the yard, never close enough to trigger the full alert. A week later, another package arrived. Same plain box, same perfect label. Only this time, it was left on the back porch. That porch isn't visible from the street. Whoever placed it there had to come through the gate. That night, I left my lights on and sat in the living room with a baseball bat across my lap. No knocks, no voices. I called the police again. They said the fraud unit was still working the case, but hadn't found a suspect. These things take time, they said. You'll get an update when we have one. It's been months now. No update. But every few weeks, a new package arrives. Always the same shape, same label, no return address. I stopped opening them. They sit in the garage, stacked like quiet threats. Each one a reminder that my address, my name is now part of something I'll never understand. Sometimes, when I'm walking back from the mailbox at dusk, I catch a glimpse of headlights pausing at the corner. The car never stops long, just enough to linger. I tell myself it's nothing, that the system's slow, that the world's full of accidents and errors and bad timing. But sometimes I think about the last box, the one with my name printed perfectly. The ink wasn't from a label printer. It was handwritten. And that's when I realized someone out there knows exactly who I am. I said yes to that house sitting because I needed the money. It was a 2-story home in Overland Park. Pale brick, new roof, plants everywhere. A cat named Fig feed twice a day. Water the ferns, bring in packages, lock up before bed. Simple. The couple showed me around the morning they left. Thermostat set at 72. Back door sticks unless you pull up. Pantry light timer flickers. The wife handed me a note card with plant instructions written like a checklist. Make yourself at home, she said, and I smiled, even though houses like that never really feel like yours. The first few nights were calm. I worked on my thesis at the dining table, Fig sleeping in a patch of light. Evenings were soft, tea, podcasts. I wore their oversized sweatshirt because the vents blasted cold air. I texted photos of the cat each night to reassure them and myself that everything was fine. On the third morning, I noticed the shower curtain in the hall bathroom was damp. The towel, too, edges darker from moisture. I stood in the doorway trying to remember if I'd used that bathroom. Maybe half asleep one night. I convinced myself I had. The next morning, the shampoo bottle was moved. I hadn't touched it. Still, I told myself it was memory playing tricks. It's amazing how easily you explain away the small things when you're alone. By day 5, I was settled enough to stop noticing the stranges until I heard the front door click open. No knock, no hesitation, the sound of a key turning with confidence. I froze mid-step in the kitchen. Then footsteps crossing the tile. The bathroom door opened, closed. A second later, water ran. I didn't think. I just moved into the pantry, closing the door until only an inch of light slipped through. My phone was slick in my hand. I whispered to the 911 operator that someone had entered. She asked if I could get out a back door. I said, no, the bar lock was on. She told me to stay hidden. Units are on the way, she said. I could hear my own breathing louder than her voice. The shower ran for minutes. When the water stopped, I heard footsteps again. The back slider creaked open. Cold air pushed across the floor. Silence. The operator asked if I was safe. I waited, counting heartbeats. Then I heard a knock. Police, a man's voice called big, padded out of the shadows like this was all normal life. The officers swept the house. Bathroom floor damp, footprints glistening under the light. Bare adult-sized, leading from the tub to the back door. Outside, the gate was unlatched. Grass pressed where someone had climbed the fence. They didn't find anyone. They asked if I knew anyone with a key. I didn't. They took a statement, promised extra patrols, and left. I sat on the couch holding Fig, trying to convince my body the danger had passed. I called the homeowners. No answer. Left a message that was calm on the surface, but shaking underneath. When they called back, the husband spoke first. We need to tell you something, he said. They had fired their handyman 2 weeks before. He'd refused to return his spare key. That's why we asked you to stay, he added. We just wanted the place to look lived in. The air in the room felt wrong, too heavy to breathe. They apologized over and over. I said I was fine because technically I was, but that wasn't the truth that stayed. I packed my bag and took Fig to my place for the night. The wife texted later with a heart emoji and said they'd Ricky everything. I told her I was glad. I never mentioned hearing the door open or the shower running while I hid in the pantry. It felt like information that would make their house unlivable afterward, and they needed to go back to it. I figured silence was a kind of mercy. Weeks later, the homeowners sent me a thank you card with a gift certificate and wrote, "You kept our home safe." I still have their sweatshirt folded on a chair. Sometimes I catch myself looking at it the way you look at an old scar. Proof that something happened, even if it's over. People like to end stories like this with lessons. Trust your instincts. Change your locks. Call the cops faster. They're right. But none of that helps in the moment. Because when fear crawls into your chest, you don't think about rules. You think about survival. You think about how quiet a shower can sound when it isn't supposed to be running. If you also learned that monsters wear normal clothes and wave from across the street, smash that like button, hit subscribe so you never miss the next scare. And tell me in the comments what you do if it happened on your street. And if you ever thought about booking a cozy getaway, maybe watch this first. Click now to see 4 disturbing Airbnb horror stories, because every guest check-in starts with trust. Or if you want to keep going, just stay here. Another video on the same theme you just watched will roll right after. Thanks for watching. Stay alert, stay safe, and I'll see you in the next nightmare.